So, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to show you how to find six-figure land deals using AI. And this has been one of the most powerful things that I have learned over the last year and a half from building my business, scaling my business, and also helping other people build and scale their businesses to multiple six figures in profit, seven figures and beyond. So as you can see right now, I am on the Whitetail Properties real estate website. And why am I on the Whitetail Properties real estate website? Well, because Whitetail is one of the primary recreational property brokerages in the United States of America. So with that being said, there are going to be a lot of recreational hunting land kind of deals that are for sale and have in turn sold on Whitetail Properties. So I love to start out with Whitetail, and this is a part of a multi-step process. And first of all, where I like to be on the east side, I like to be in the south, and I like to be in the Midwest of America. What's important to understand about these kinds of deals, a lot of people don't think that this kind of land is even marketable or sellable. And you realize that it's actually the opposite when you look at the demand. So I always start with who's buying what and where are they buying it and at what price points. And if my goal is to do six-figure land deals, then I need to position myself in markets where deals are consistently selling for multiple six figures. So when you go here, I need to look at properties that have actually sold first. Not auctions, not for sale, not new, not pending. Sometimes I'll go pending, but for this purpose right now, I want to go sold. The only caveat to Whitetail is that it doesn't actually show you the sold values of these properties, but I'll show you how to find that in a minute. So if I'm looking for six-figure deals, my minimum price, what I want to see selling is $150,000. The max at 40 million, I don't really care about the max. I'm just going to go in here. Let's just start with Minnesota. So I see 122 properties have actually sold in this pocket. Let me zoom in here, and I'm just going to go where I see the most. So this pocket right here, 15. See 15, 18. So Douglas County, you got 40 acres selling in Douglas County. What I want to do is look at the property type first and foremost. And I want to look at the marketing. Private and secluded Alexandria area county acreage, 40 acres. Okay, interesting. It's tillable. So this is farmland. It's not ideally what I'm looking for. What I'm more looking for are properties that people can hunt on, because these assets, usually they're going to be selling at market value. So let's go back. Let's look here. Let's actually just hone in. Let's focus on Minnesota for this purpose. And you can apply this to essentially any state. And I'm going to also show you in this video how to watch out for any red tape that might be in that state. Let's go here. Let's say, what are we looking for? Let's just look here. Todd County, 48 acres. Here. Build, hunt, and fish on over half a mile of lake frontage on Big Swan Lake. This is the exact kind of asset that I'm looking for. 48 acres. Now look at the marketing. This marketing isn't even the greatest marketing. The pictures are okay, but it's not the best marketing that it could possibly be. So that automatically that actually makes me really excited looking at this. The description is pretty good. What I'm going to do next is go over to Zillow. What county was this? So what we're going to do is go into Minnesota. We're going to go Todd County. As you can see, I already had preset things on here. So Todd County, I want to go Todd County, and I want to go 50 to 100 acres. And look at all these: $310,000, $580,000, $300,000, $225,000, $444,000. See, if you position yourself properly in markets where there's only six-figure deals and you're only making six-figure offers, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to come back? Now, the issue becomes, most people don't know how to brand themselves. Most people don't know how to position themselves. Most people don't know how to sell these kinds of properties. And most people don't know how to market themselves on the phone to these sellers in order to present themselves as the ultimate problem solver to whatever problem that they need to get out of in selling their property. And that becomes the issue. And that is why most people do these low-level deals where they're making $15,000, $10,000, even $3,000. You see, the other thing I want to say too is you get these big promises of doing deals that, you make 10 grand, you'll make 15 grand. It's just all this volume, just do a lot of volume and just keep on doing deals, keep doing deals. But it's diminishing returns, because after all of your expenses, everything, you end up with 3 grand. You end up with $1,500 net. That's what a lot of these people don't tell you. Now, with this, it's the same exact expenses for a $10,000 deal maybe a little bit more than it is for a $100,000 deal. How do I know? Because I've done it multiple times. So I might spend $10,000 to get this entire deal done, but I make $130,000. You see, when you increase your margins that you actually go after, the profit that you make increases by tenfold. So the other thing I want to do is go into Minnesota, and I want to see how long these properties have actually taken to sell. So at 310,000, again, big advantages in this market because the marketing here is not even that good. It's not that good. I'll give this marketing a 5 out of 10. Description is not that great. Let's see, what does this have here? Utilities, no utilities. These are all things that you want to do as you're searching for markets. This is interesting. This is very interesting. So this thing sold in less than a month, and it sold over the asking price. That's a really good thing. Now, how do they market this? Private building site, hobby farm, hunting retreat, or recreational spot. So what I'm looking for, and it sold really quickly. So immediately, I know that this is a market that I want to enter into because there is demand here, right? But I haven't even gotten through all the other ones. 580,000, this looks like more of a farming parcel here. Let's see, productive farmland. It does have hunting potential. That's good. Let's see. So listed for sale. Wow, a lot of these are selling for over the asking price. Listed for 480,000, sold at 580,000. It's also good. What was this? Let me see. Let's keep on looking. This actually has good marketing here. This is what I would consider way better marketing. And the reason why I'm saying, for those of you that are wondering, like, why is he saying it's not good marketing? I always want to see at least an overlay, an outline on every property that we list. That is like key branding. You have to make sure that you have an outline on every single property that you list. And there's a few things that we do to our photos as well to just make sure that they stand out amongst the rest of the photos that I don't see are being done here. 76 acres, $301,000. Again, listed. So you see, this is how you find like ridiculous markets. And I've done this so many times at this point that I can do this in 5-10 minutes, but this is practice. You have to identify the demand. You have to know where you're targeted at. You have to know what kind of deals you want to get. And that's how you do this. So look, I just pulled 3 different properties in this market that listed, sold within a month, and all 3 of them sold for a higher price than what they were currently asking, than what the seller was asking for. That is exactly what you want, because that means that there's demand in this area. So you go and list a property at $275,000 that you entered in at $175,000. It's very likely that you'll get offers over your asking price as you go in here. So yeah, this is already a market that I'm going to go into, and I'm just going to show you guys this process one time through and through. And if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you need help implementing exactly how we find multiple 6-figure land deals on a consistent basis and how I help my clients find 6-figure land deals on a consistent basis, book in a strategy call below and me and my team will be happy to help. So same thing right here, listed at 300,000, sold at 300,000 in a month. So the next thing I'm going to do, and this is where the AI starts to take part. What I want to do, and this is with any county you can do this, right? What I want to do is this. I am researching a county, Todd County, Minnesota. I need you to help me identify any potential red tape in buying and selling land in that specific area. I'm specifically going after recreational land in the $150,000 sold all the way up to the multiple 7 figures sold. I've seen multiple times in this county that properties are selling in the multi 6-figure range in less than a month. What I want you to do though, I want you to identify any issues I might run into, whether it be with title companies, whether it might be with regulations. Also, I'm curious about the double closing rules in this area as well. So if you could give me a list of things that I may need to watch out for as I send to this market, that would be helpful. The other thing that I'm looking for is, what is the average archetype of person that owns these assets, and what could be the average amount of problems that they could potentially have? If you could give me all that information in a succinct report, that would be very helpful. So it's really important with the AI to start a dialogue, and I've trained my AI to do a lot for me that specifically helps me with the land investing business. So it's going to be really important to give as much context as you possibly can. The reason why I'm having it do this is because it's really important for you to understand as you go into markets that what potential issues you could run into, because a lot of people don't do this. A lot of people don't think about the potential issues they could run into, and then you start to run into those issues, and then it's like, oh my God, I didn't know that you couldn't perk properties for most of the year. Like in Maryland, as an example, you can only perk properties for like 3 months out of the entire year. So let's check this out, what it has to say. These are all really good things for you to know. So when you go into these markets, you don't want to have any red flags pop up or any surprises pop up. You already know. You see, you have to be able to study each one of your markets, especially at this level, in order to know what's going to come back. And then when it comes back, to be able to be educated enough with a seller so that you can talk to them in a way that makes you feel like a local to them. Because when you can do that, it becomes extremely easy for you to position yourself in these markets amongst all the rest of your competition. Because most people are not going to do this at all. It's just like, oh, I mailed it and then it came back and they wanted 500 grand and I didn't know how to negotiate. That's why you're not getting these kinds of deals. It's given me a lot of information here. Shoreline zoning, septic. I mean, this is all the information it gives you. Double closing support varies by title company, as I thought. Yep, so 2 sets of closings there. If I were to double close, I just want to know, like, I want to be aware of every single one of my exit strategies. So instead of me asking all the time, I kind of just know. You just want to know by just going into your AI and asking it like, hey, how does this specific area, how does this specific county handle these kind of things? These are things that I want to be able to do. Market fit, owner archetypes, people that have a second home. That's good to know. Why is it good to know that they have a second home? Because then they're downsizing. Well, then if I know that they're downsizing, I can position myself in those areas, in those markets to buy from them. Yep, inherited, aging, septic well compliance at sale, shoreline vegetation violations. Yep. What is the exact age? 42, 42.8 is the median age. Okay. So you see how easy this all becomes. Now, what I will do from here, there are multiple different ways that you can do this, but let's say you want to write a targeted mailer, a targeted branded mailer at these specific owner archetypes. How exactly would you do that? How would you make it so that it's just not some one size fits all, and the person who opens it, when you make a $150,000 offer or a $200,000 offer, the person who actually opens it feels like you're speaking directly to them? Because if we can make them feel like you're talking directly to them, then what are they going to do? They're going to call you. And even if they don't call you right then and there, they will eventually call because it speaks directly to them. This is why we have sellers calling us and saying, man, I feel like you were talking directly to me and your letter just really stood out amongst these other 20 letters that I have here. And I get all these texts and I get all these cold calls. Why? Because we're thinking about it at this deep of a level. Now, when I go in here, I want you to do this. And then I'm also going to give the AI one of our mailer templates for context. You are a world-class direct response copywriter who specializes in generating responses from the archetypes above using specifically the direct mail methodology. Write me a page based also on the template that I've provided that speaks directly to these archetypes. Boom. So now you see, you can also write your mailers with Claude and you can give it exactly what you want it to say so that it's speaking to a specific kind of person. And you can change this. Let's say I wanted to speak to a company. I want to position myself more as a well-licensed investment firm who specializes specifically please reflect that. Yeah. So you see how specific this is getting, and you can do this with any market, any property, and you can also like template this out so that, okay, now you've identified the common issues that they may be having, then you can place those issues into the mailer. It gets so deep when you think about it in this level. Now I am saying, okay, our acquisition team has identified your vacant parcel through Todd County Public Records as meeting. So how did you find my property? There you go. I'm answering all of your objections in this very thing. So this is how we write out our mailers, especially when we want to position ourselves properly in markets. You need to give yourself the best chance possible. So you using these regular templates, you not branding your mailer properly. The copy is one thing. The copy is half the battle. The other part of it is actually branding your mailers. So most people don't know how to brand their mailers. Most people don't know how to actually create a story on who they are, why they're doing what they're doing, and how they can help. So even when you go from mailer to website, what does that look like? And this is a thing that a lot of people get confused on. And if you need help branding your land investing business properly, feel free to book in a strategy call and I'd be happy to help. So from there, what you want to be able to do is pull your data set. So if I know that 50 to 100 acres in Todd County was selling for, let's say we were saying $300,000 and above, well then my goal is going to be to position myself to offer 50% of that market value at $150,000, right? So let's say our all-in expenses on this is gonna be about $45,000 to actually get this deal closed. That will come out of the deal. So you can expect your net profits to be after expenses, 105K. First of all, you do 10 deals like this in 1 year, you're absolutely crushing it. And if you want to see a more hands-on breakdown of deals that I've done exactly like this, you can scroll through my YouTube channel. I have multiple six-figure deal breakdowns as well. So what you'll have to do is find anywhere from 10 to 15 counties exactly like this that follow the same rules, that also make sure that the demand is 50 to 100% more than the supply. And if you have that, then you have a good market. So what are we looking for with good markets? That's really important. We found one here, but just so you guys know, we're looking for demand. So I want to see that properties are consistently selling. Second, I want to see that properties are consistently selling 50 to 100% more than they're actually for sale. Third, if I want to do six-figure land deals, I need to make sure that the prices in these areas are selling in the six-figure range. They've got pretty good marketing and they're all selling in 90 days or less. So this market, Todd County, Minnesota, actually has all of this. You can use PropStream to do this. You can use DataTree to do this. You can use LandVision to do this. There are so many different ways that you can pull your data. I personally use LandVision to pull my data, and we have a bunch of different subscriptions with other data platforms as well. So it all works as long as you're following the rules. And this is what I want to emphasize. The data platform that you're using does not really matter. I mean, you might really like the UI, and that's why I'm not showing that today, because it doesn't really matter. I want you guys to focus on the strategical rules of getting it done. So if you focus on the strategical rules of getting it done, regardless of where you pull from, you're gonna get very similar results. So what have we done today? We have picked a really good market. We have figured out how to master our direct mail copy using AI. We have also gone through that market and looked for any red tape that might potentially be in that market that could stop us from doing deals. We've looked at the average archetype of person that's in the area. We've done all of these things step by step. Now, what do we have to do from here? What you'd have to do now is send your direct mail. So you have to get your mail out. And again, you're doing this with 10 to 15 different markets, and you should be sending this mail out consistently. It shouldn't just be like, okay, I sent out one mailer and now I'm hoping and praying. It should be, if I'm gonna do 1,500 a week, 2,000 a week, whatever it is, but I have to do it every single week. Let's just say you're gonna start with 3,000 mailers a week. Now that actually needs to be consistent for about 6 months. And within that 6 months, multiple six-figure deals are going to fill your pipeline. It is inevitable for this to happen if you followed all the steps from before. Now, as these deals start to come into your pipeline, it is really important to understand the acquisitions side of this, because acquisitions is by far the most important part about getting multiple six-figure deals under contract and actually closing them. So as a part of acquisitions, what do you need to know? You need to know that, first of all, acquisitions is all about how you look to your seller. So even if you're the best person on the phone, if your branding and your marketing is not correct, they won't even give you a call, because this level of person is really doing their best, especially at this point in their life, to close things up and do everything that they possibly can to not get scammed. They're trying to protect their assets, they're trying to protect everything, and they don't really want to talk to you. So if you do not come correct, it's going to be really difficult for you to get any deals like this. So in your mailer, I showed you how to build authority. So you've already built authority. When you speak to sellers, you need to be able to create trust. You need to be able to build rapport. And you need to be able to identify their main problem. Because when you can do all four of these things, and especially identify their main problem, then every time it's like, oh, well, I don't want to sell, or I want to cancel the door, or I don't want to do this, or I want to do that, or something is going awry, then you can always come back to identifying their main problem and saying, well, hey, you want to sell because of X, and I can help you through my solution. You need to know how to frame your solution around their problem. If you can frame your solution around their problem, it's going to be extremely easy for you to get deals done. Now, when talking to sellers, how do you build authority? By showing them that you've done it before and explaining things in the market that you've already done research on. How do you create trust? By asking them questions about themselves, asking them questions about the property, asking them questions about what you can do to serve them. That's where we want to go. You always want to lead from the place of how can you help them. When you lead from the place of how can you help, it becomes extremely easy to create trust, build rapport, and identify their problems. These are the four things that you need to be able to do to get properties under contract on a consistent basis. Now, what kind of questions am I asking about a property? Especially a six-figure one. And this is the other thing too. When you have a property like this and a profile like this, you need to already have research done. By the time you get on the phone with a person like this, you need to be completely buttoned up, because if you're buttoned up completely, then it's like, oh, wow, he really knows what he's talking about. So I'm asking about septic. I'm asking last time they visited the property. I'm asking if they have kids, if the kids want it. Brothers, sisters, do brothers and sisters want it? Do brothers and sisters have title to it? Is it in a trust? I'm asking about electric. Especially if it's a hunting property, I'm asking what kind of game can be hunted on the property. Because when you say that, when you use jargon that is local to this area, and that's also something that we do, we're able to identify the jargon that's used in some of these areas and use that jargon with the seller, so then they think that you're a local. This stuff is more powerful. Like, I don't think you truly understand how good the land investing business has become because of the things that we've been able to do with AI and like using it to our advantage. And I also, again, I want to know why they're selling. Why are you selling? Like, that's a really big point. Why are you selling? Or are you just picking my brain? If you're picking my brain, that's fine. you should still add value to that seller, even if it's like a brain pick conversation. Oh, I just wanted to see, like, sometimes we have people that are like, well, why do you guys send these offers? And then I've had people that get mad about that. Like, why are they asking me that? Because you're just focused on making money. You're not focused on solving problems. When you focus on making money as opposed to solving problems, it becomes very difficult for you. So these are all the questions that we're asking them. Septic, last time they visited it, kids, brothers, sisters, trust, electric. All these things are things I want to ask about water as well. Is it city water? Is it well? Like, these are all things that I'm asking sellers. And when you can package all this together, you're asking them those questions, you know absolutely everything about the property. You also know about them, because when you ask someone about their kids or their brothers and sisters or personal things about them, what do they do for work? What do you do for work? I also want to know what your income is like. Because if I know what your income is like, maybe things are not as liquid as you like them to be. And for someone like this, that maybe is well capitalized enough to buy a multi-six-figure property, well, maybe there's a reason why you have to sell. I also want to ask about 1031. Have you identified something else that has you wanting to sell this property? So I'm asking about the 1031 exchange as well. Do you know that? And the other thing too, with this, a lot of people are worried about the capital gains taxes with a $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 or $600,000 property. So with that, what we're going to say is, like, you know, you can 1031 exchange this and avoid the capital gains taxes. And the title company can help you do that. As long as you identify a property within this window of time, the title company will help you. So you can do that. You see, it's a really different conversation. And these are all the things that we're talking to sellers about. It's extensive, but if you're able to cover all of these points, then you're going to be able to know a seller well enough to get them under contract, to negotiate with them. And also, of course, price. Price is extremely important. Price is going to allow you to make as much money as you possibly can. And you also have to understand when to negotiate, why to negotiate. Do it early. With these kinds of deals, you want to be able to negotiate earlier, sooner rather than later. Don't just make a high offer if you know you can't close at that offer. It's not about just getting deals under contract. It's about getting deals under contract that we can later profit from on the market. Now, in this video, I have showed you how to select killer markets for multi-six-figure land deals. I have showed you how to identify rules that are going to help you get these multi-six-figure land deals. I've shown you how to write the copy specifically for these seller profiles. I've shown you what to say to those seller profiles as well. Now, these are the basic principles of how we find six-figure land deals with AI, but there is an amalgamation of other stuff, extensive stuff that I teach directly to my clients one-on-one at Landburst. And if you want to be a client of mine, feel free to book in the strategy call below, and I'd be happy to help you. Now, I know that some people that may be watching this video might be wholesalers or might be wholesaling land, so they don't understand how this model works. We list our properties back on the MLS. So when I was going in the beginning and I found that market and I saw what sold, I already found my buyers. My buyers are there. So I don't keep a list of cash buyers. I keep a list of very professional land specific brokers. They list my property on the MLS for me. And that is the best way to find buyers. The MLS is the best real estate buyer network that exists. So you're not doing this thing where you're calling these builders or buyers. That's not this. We reverse engineer the process. So when we get these deals under contract, we know exactly how we're going to dispo them. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Comment anything that was insightful, helpful for you. If you have any questions, ask the questions. I'd be happy to help. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Alrighty, so these are the main frameworks that we use to find rural recreational markets. And from there, I'm going to show you what I do to actually extrapolate that data. So it's going to be done in ways where you will see multiple different frameworks and methods of how I do it, how I find six-figure deals, how I create the conveyor belt, how we do all these things. Just for example, I'm going to show you guys how I use priced. So with price, you always want to go to more, you want to go to research, and then you want to do the county that we just had. So I'm going to go ahead and take Clare County. I'm going to put it into here and just kind of see what it tells me. And also just so you know that, you know, even if the ratio, that's the guideline for me, right? The ratio is 0.5 or higher, but if for whatever reason it doesn't say that, which it does, right? It always usually does say that, right? So you can even see here, right? Sold to for sale ratio is 0.75. That's fantastic. That's what I'm looking for, right? So even with that being said, that's a county immediately. We also want to go, where's the other one? Roscommon County. And again, you would build your mailer based upon that one key point county that you see that has a lot of red dots just like that, and then making sure that the properties that you're actually looking at, the actual comps, are consistent with the kinds of properties that we want to buy and we want to sell. Let's go Roscommon County. Yeah, Roscommon County, 0.95. And again, remember, the guideline is 0.5 or higher. We always want to be in at 0.5 or higher in our county research. Even we can go 5 to 20 acres. Let's see. It goes even higher. Go 20 acres plus. Okay, that's a little lower. So that's interesting. So then that means we want to stay in the 5 to 20 acre range. So Clare, I want to see what Clare is. 0.1, 1.1, 0.43. Interesting. Okay. Just so we have that data. So now what I'm going to do, I'll give you guys a couple more counties too. So let's do one more county. This is how you find rural recreational properties to buy and sell. So we also want to look to and see that you've got Michigan, you've got Wisconsin, Minnesota, all these areas right here, just while I'm on the topic, all these areas are fantastic areas for rural recreational property. Even New York, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky. All these are great areas for rural recreational property. Now, obviously, you need to go in and kind of see that. And a big reason why I use Whitetail is because they're really the hub for rural recreational property and getting them sold really fast. And so if there's rural recreational property to be sold or to be for sale, then they're going to have it and they're going to know like what that market is like. And that property is going to be listed with them. And that's why I use Whitetail, because especially for rural rec, they're going to have a lot of listings. And so I want to see like where do they have the most of their listings or even the least of their listings and kind of figure out how I can adjust my strategy from there. So you got Clare County. I want to go a little north because once you kind of start seeing this is more city, more farmland. I don't really want to be in this area right now because I'm looking for rural rec. So once that starts lightening up like that, look, again, you can kind of see these are more, farming land parcels, more of a city area. I want to be up here ideally. There's really not. Let's use this county for example. Ogemaw. Let's go to Ogemaw County. All right. See, same kinds of stuff here. Let's see here. Seems like a lot actually hasn't sold through in this area. I wonder what's for sale. See what's for sale. Okay, so pretty consistent. Hunter's Dream. You see how it's being marketed as a Hunter's Dream, right? It's been on the market for 5 days. I guarantee this will fly off the shelf. But honestly, it probably would have flown off the shelf a little faster at $199. But who knows what their profit margin is like? If this is even a land flipper, I don't know. Good marketing. I'm not seeing any drone shots, but good marketing. Not great, but good. 5 days on Redfin. Yeah, this is the exact kind of property that you'd be looking for. All right, so then I'd go and put Ogemaw back into my research database just to see what the sold to for sale ratio is. Again, 0.75, right? So that's perfect. That's what we're looking for. So now I'm going to take, just show you guys how I actually build the data set. I'm going to show you guys. So I'm going to go Ogemaw County, Michigan. I'm going to go Roscommon. And where was our other one? Add it. And then we have Clare. And then we're going to add it. Okay. Because of the fact that I went and saw that the sold to for sale ratio for a certain point in, I think it was Roscommon, was a little lower. I'm still gonna keep that in my data set. I want big acreages. I still want 60, 70, 80 acres, but I'm just kind of keeping that in mind. And again,
a lot of deals are really made with conversation. So you could like have the most perfect data set ever, but if you don't know how to actually talk on the phone, then it doesn't matter. And so we want to make sure that our data set is not going to be perfect. We can get our data set to 90% perfection. And that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do. Because even if you guys have the most perfect mailer and the acquisitions mastery is not on point, you're going to have an issue getting deals. So I'm going to go 5 acres minimum. You can see you can put your minimum and max acreage into price. So you have land characteristics. You're going to go 5 to, I'm just going to say 20. And then acreage increment is 5. It's by 5s. So then I'm going to go 20, just say 21 to 50, acreage increment by 5. So what that means is, well, the acreage increment is basically when the data set actually downloads, you'll see it. It'll be like, okay, from 5 to 10 acres, from 10 to 15 acres, from 15 to 20 acres. It'll be priced in that way. And then 5, and then you're going to go 51 to, I'm going to maybe stop at 100 just for this purpose. Offer price percent, I'm going to go 38%. I'm going to go price with sold comps only. So this is a very important factor right here. We always want to make sure we're pricing with sold comps only. We don't want to price with anything else but sold comps, because for sale comps is really just skepticism. It's skepticism of the market. So we don't actually know if those things are going to sell or not. Now, when something is actually sold, then we have a very, very clear path on what we're going to do, on what to do from there, because it's actually sold. The market's decided what the property is worth. It's actually sold. So things that I need to scrub out in the data tree filter. Marshland, I don't want that in there. I do not want barren land in there. I don't really want mountainous land in there, because then what you're going to get is a lot of slopey property. And even when you take this out, sometimes you still get property that's sloped up. I don't want that. Wasteland, I don't want that. Wildlife refuge. Natural resources, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want open space. I don't want common land. These are all just things that we don't want. And these kinds of things are taking out the likelihood of us having a lot of properties with wetlands, which we don't want to buy. We don't want to buy properties with wetlands. We don't want to be buying properties with floodplains. Those things don't help us. We don't want to be buying properties that are sloped. Those things are not going to help you sell your property fast. All that's going to happen with properties like that is the buyer is going to come and try to offer a bunch of contingencies, and then you're not going to be able to sell your property quickly, because the more issues a property has, the less room for negotiation, the less leverage you actually have with a buyer. And so we want to minimize those issues. Oh, also, last thing I need to do, fallow land. I don't want fallow land in there. No, that's all good. So owner occupied, we don't want that. What's weird is that sometimes, even though we're buying vacant land, you still have the data set. So to explain the way Price works, Price actually has a contract with DataTree, which is a very, very popular data source amongst land investors. So Price actually takes all of DataTree's data and uses it as their own, basically. And so it's weird that even with the DataTree data that we have, sometimes they mark absentee owner, but then still that person could still live there. So we want to make sure that we're leaning the odds in our favor, basically, with the market research that we do and with this. So when we're actually going through the data set and filtering different things out, we're leaning the odds more and more and more in our favor towards getting the kinds of deals that we want to get. So you want to go exclude do not mail, absentee owner, corporate owned. I don't care whether it's corporate owned or not. But those are the two things. I don't want to take out the exclude do not mail list. I don't want anyone that's on the do not mail list in there. The ideal seller for a property like this is someone that doesn't even live there. And even if they do live there, they're like way older. Maybe they live a county over, even if they are in the area. But ideally, we're looking for people that are never going to use it again. I'm never going to hunt on it again. And you'll get different circumstances, but that's the primary one, and where you'll really be able to like have a deal where you're, for example, buying it for $35,000 and selling it for $100,000. This is a deal that could literally happen by pricing a mailer like this. So living area, square feet, we want to go 0 to 0. I want it at 0 to 0 because I don't want any structures on my property. Now, even if there are structures, which there's still structures could still come back, it's just gonna kind of dwindle that down. If there were data reported to the data source that, hey, there's a structure on this property and, for example, it's 1,000 square feet, that's not gonna pop up. Now, structures will pop up if the data source didn't actually report it. Now, there are some times when the county doesn't report those things because maybe they don't know or they don't have accurate reported information. So that's really important for you guys to understand. So we want to be at last sale date. I always go last sale date is before a certain point of time. I don't, only because I don't want anything that has just recently sold. Because if it's just recently sold, the odds of me getting it for below market value are pretty slim to none, and usually slim as left town. So we want to go 21, just going to say 2021, for example. We're going to go to December of 2021. That's the last sale date. That's enough time for people to kind of decide that, hey, I don't want this property anymore. I bought this and it's not working out for me, or I bought it and I don't use it, or whatever it might be. All deeds, listing status is not active, pending. Then I'm going to get my count before I actually run my search. Cool. 2,100, 2715. Okay. So now this is how we actually go through and decide, what to pick and what not to pick. I'm not actually going to download this data set, but I am going to kind of show you guys how you implement this into your business and why it's important. So, for example, Roscommon County, 76 to 80 acres. Let's see how it's priced. So on average, they believe that we'll be offering $85,000 for a property. Now, it's important that you look at the comps because as soon as I just clicked on this, I can see that it gave me 3 different comps. These 3 are all outliers, right? So I know that right off the bat, I know these are outliers. So I want to kind of look and why are they outliers? Richfield Township, 80 acres. I mean, this is ideally what we'd be looking for. So look, if you're in at 85 and you're out at 159, that's an ideal situation, right? This $300,000 one is definitely an outlier. I don't know why it sold for that, but that's what I'm trying to figure out. If I can get some kinds of pictures or something like that. And again, I use geopricing. So what geopricing is basically they're pricing the coordinates of your property based upon the geolocation and coordinates of the other comps. So if you have a comp in a certain area that sold for $159,000 and your property is, say, right up the street or in a similar geolocation as that property, and you said 38%, that's why they're coming up with the $85,000. In order to aim for properties where you're getting a specific profit, you also need to make sure that you got a minimum purchase price. If I don't want to buy things for $10,000, then I can actually take that out right here. So you can see I've done a minimum purchase price at $30,000, which I didn't do before, which is why that other thing was in there. It's probably going to give me less records now, though. Let's see. Which is fine. If it gives you less records, you still have 973. That's okay. That means now you're way more targeted. Honestly, some of my best mailers and some of my best deals have come from when I actually had a small sample size of data to use. But I kept adding on. I kept adding on my data. You see all these, there's nothing there. 120. And honestly, for something like this, for a market like this, we might even be able to lower our purchase price, maybe even go down to 20,000, maybe even go down to 15,000. Because on average, if I'm going 15 to 20,000, you're still going to be able to sell for probably around $60,000, $50,000 to $60,000, which still gives you the kind of profit that you want. We'll look at these comps. See how long this took to sell. So this one took 3 months to sell. And you can see again, like I always say, right? We want to make sure we're priced aggressively. If this was priced at, say, 220, it probably would have sold even faster than it sold in. And that's what we want. So these are the kinds of properties that you'd be purchasing, and you'd be getting under contract. Just to play with a little bit, just so you guys kind of get a framework of how I used it, how I used this to scale my business. 15,000. Let's go down to 15,000 just for this purpose. Just see what they say. I can guarantee it'll be more records. And I want to see on average, if I'm offering $15,000, what do they anticipate I'm offloading it for? This is a good example right here. Okay, so 17,000 on an average. I think I'm offloading it for 29. That's a base hit. So I'd keep that in there as a beginner, as a base hit. You don't want to do any deal that's going to net you less than $10,000 though. Like really, just it's not worth it. Honestly, it takes the same amount of time to do the little deal as it does the big deal. It really does. So that's essentially how you pick a rural recreational market and how you put it into price to get the data set that you actually need to send it to Postcard Mania to actually get the mail sent out. So I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in a later module on how to systematize a data set like this and send it to Postcard Mania and get all that stuff set.
What I'm about to share with you could save you thousands of dollars and a whole lot of stress. So grab a pen and paper and take some notes. My name is Olufemi Ajose, and for nearly 5 years now, I've bought and sold hundreds of parcels of land and built a multi-7-figure profit land flipping business from the product. My channel, Olufemi Ajose, is your go-to for buying and selling land and building a multi-7-figure profit business from the product. So let's jump in. Here are the 10 critical things that you need to avoid when buying land. Number one, you need to actually walk the land. Either you walk the land or you have a local land-specific broker walk the land for you, but you need to pick a broker that knows what he or she is doing. And the only way to tell this is by going on their sold comparables and actually seeing the properties that they've sold. You want to see that this person has sold properties very consistently. Now, I'm actually on a 6-acre parcel of land right now that I was looking at buying, and I'm probably not going to buy it now that I'm walking it, but I did see this creek here, which is why I was thinking about buying it. But I probably won't buy it. Just because it's way too slow. Just look at it. When you're thinking about buying a property, you want to know where the property starts and ends. You want to know how much road frontage the property actually has, and you want to know the boundaries of the property. You need to know all these things, and I'm going to show you how to make sure that you know that. Now, I've bought properties in 48 different states, and I've never lost money on a single land deal because I have local brokers and realtors going to the properties and walking the properties physically for me. Now, I really do enjoy land and walking these properties, so that's why I do it. But let's say that you're in Europe or Hawaii and you don't want to walk your property, you can always have a local land-specific broker do it for you. You also want to make sure that there's nothing on the property that doesn't belong to the seller. This is really important. So any, tractors or trash or RVs or anything like that, you want to make sure that all the things on there actually belong to the seller, and if they don't, you need to convey those messages to the seller, because you don't want to be liable for something like that. Number two, you don't want to overpay for property. Now, I buy land at anywhere from 35 to 50 cents on the dollar consistently. Why? Because I'm able to look at comparables on the market. So I go and look at sold comparables and see what has actually sold. You see, the problem that most people make when they choose comparables, they're choosing for sale comparables, and usually those for sale comparables have been on the market for 300 days, 400 days, 500 days. The market hasn't responded to it yet. What I look for in comps is to make sure that the market has responded and that the property actually sold quickly. So if I see that a property sold for $80,000, I'm actually going to go in and offer anywhere from $35,000 to $40,000 for that property with how we buy and sell land. You might also want to pay for an appraisal, which will be like $300 or $400, but a lot of the appraisals that I've seen have been either way above what the property was worth or way below what the property is worth. So make sure that you're choosing a reputable appraiser if you're going to go that route. If you're getting lending, they're going to require an appraisal anyways. Now, if you're getting lending, they're going to require an appraisal, and that's why I buy all my properties in cash. Number three, you always want to get a survey. I need to know the exact boundaries of my property. So get a survey. Even if the property already has a survey, if it's not in the last 10 years, I'm getting another survey on that property just to make sure that I'm buying the right property, just to make sure that it's actually what they convey it to be. I want to make sure that I'm buying right. I've seen so many people, unfortunately, just lose so much money buying land just because they didn't do the proper due diligence. It's so important to me that you do your due diligence. So get a survey on your property, understand the boundary lines, figure out where the stakes are at. Make sure that you get a local, reputable surveyor. Now, a survey is going to run you about $600 depending on the size of the land, but you just want to make sure that you're with someone that has a lot of experience surveying properties. You don't want to be with some inexperienced guy. Now, number four, you want to check for wetlands. Now, this property actually has wetlands because of that creek, and so sometimes wetlands can actually serve as an attribute to the property as opposed to a hindrance. But you want to make sure, okay, if there are wetlands on my property, why are there wetlands on my property? Is it a marshland? Is it a swampy land? Like, what is it? So you can actually use things like ID Lands and FEMA's website to check for wetlands, and it'll tell you exactly what the wetlands are.
So it'll tell you if it's a creek, it'll tell you if it's swampy, it'll tell you if it's marsh, and you always want to make sure, like I said, this is why it's so important for a person to actually walk it, because sometimes these maps are not 100% accurate. So you actually want to have someone walk the property just to make sure that everything does check out for you. Number 5, you want to check for flood zones. So you can actually check flood zones by going on a FEMA floodplain map, and this is really important for properties that you're going to build on. You don't want your properties to be flooded, so you want to make sure that there's no flood risk for these properties. Now, I buy all kind of land. I've bought and sold hunting land, properties that you build on. I bought and sold farmland. I mean, anything you can imagine, pretty much every type of land. So for hunting land, for example, FEMA floodplains and wetlands are not really things that I'm too concerned about because we're going to hunt on that property. But when it's a property that you're going to build on, you want to make sure that there's no flood zone in the area or that it's minimal. And you can actually do this by checking the FEMA floodplain map. Number 6, you want to review the deed restrictions because you don't want to buy a property where you can't have your RV on there. You can't have your mobile home on there. You can't do certain things. You can't have livestock on the property. Deed restrictions are really important, and these are things that can be really sneaky on you. So you want to make sure that you review deed restrictions. I've seen a lot of people lose money on deals because they didn't review deed restrictions. So you want to make sure you check the restrictive covenants at your local registrar's office. Number 7, will the property actually perk? If water won't drain through the property, then it won't perk. And so you can either get a sand mound system, or let's say if it's a hunting property, then a perk test doesn't really matter. But if you're building on a property, you want to make sure that before you buy that property, it either has a perk test or you get the perk test yourself. Don't guess. Don't just assume that just because there's other properties built on neighboring properties that it will perk. Get that perk test, because if you buy it and you figure out that it's not buildable, you're going to be upset. And some land is just really cheap because it's just unbuildable. Why? Because it won't perk. Number 8, you want to see if there's water. Does it have city water or is there a well? If you don't have these two things, you want to make sure that you do have them, or that the city can bring water to your property, or you can drill a well and the property has capacity for that. If you don't have this, you could be in trouble. And a well could cost you anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 depending on where you are. There are also some areas that don't have groundwater. So if you want to build a well, make sure that you also have groundwater. Number 9, you want to make sure that you talk to some neighbors. Now, I've bought and sold land in 48 different states across my career. And I bought and sold millions of dollars worth of parcels of land. And this is something that I always do. I always have my local land specific brokers go to these properties, talk to the neighbors, and make sure that they actually have connections with these owners. Because I had a specific case a few years ago where I was about to buy about 20 acres in Georgia, and there were bodies buried on the property. And the neighbor actually told us there were bodies buried on the property. And I was like, what? No way. So we went to the registrar's office and we found out that there was hazardous waste on the property. The seller had actually been reported for having hazardous waste on his property, so I didn't close on the property. I mean, good God, that saved me so much money. You also never know. I even send neighbor letters every time I actually buy a property, because the owners of the other properties could also be looking to sell that property as well. So you just never know. You want to make sure that you make good connections with your local neighbors. Number 10, you want to make sure that you get a title commitment on your property. You need to check if there's any back taxes, conservation easements, or anything particularly wrong with the property. And the title commitment will tell you everything. Don't self-close on any of your properties. Get title commitments. On every property that I've ever bought and sold, I've gotten a title commitment on that property just to make sure that I'm insured. And I'll actually tell you, there was one deal in particular, out of hundreds of deals, there was one deal that was just bad. And I was able to get my insurance back and actually get whole for that deal. And I just broke even because I had title insurance on that deal. The title company made an oversight. I filed my insurance and I got the money back. So you want to make sure that you get title commitments on every single one of your properties and that you get these properties insured. You also want to make sure that you have full right and claim to the property and that the seller actually has full right and claim to sell the property to you. Because I've seen cases, not in my case, but I've seen cases with colleagues where they've actually bought a property and the seller didn't authorize that. And there was undivided interest on the property and they didn't do their full due diligence and research. And so they ended up getting sued. Who wants to deal with that? Now, a bonus tip. You want to check for slopes on your property. Now, a lot of these maps and a lot of these realtors and a lot of these sellers won't tell you about the slope. But as you can see with this one, I wasn't told about the slope. So you want to check and make sure that your properties are not extremely sloped and don't have large grades of slope because you can't really do anything with the landslide. So there you have it. That's 10 things that every land buyer should know before buying that property. If you missed anything, rewind and watch again, and make sure to leave one thing from your notes that you learned from this video. And if you want to learn how I buy and sell land for profit, make sure to check out this video about how I made $73,000 on just one land.
Hey guys, this is Femi with Landverse, and today I'm going to share with you my $500K to $1 million a year land business structure. A lot of people have been asking me how to structure the business. This and full processes and SOPs and everything like that are within Landverse. So I'm not going to share with you guys all the deliverables on YouTube because otherwise, my students will be upset, clients will be upset. So I'm going to share with you guys the main basic frameworks that I use and how you can potentially implement them into your own business. So let's get started. So acquisition manager is a very, very, very key role, if not the most important role in your business, because that's what drives all the profit, all the revenue, all the deals. If you don't have a really solid acquisition manager, if you don't have someone that's driven, that has a vision for their own life, that is a leader of sorts as well, you're going to have some trouble. If you have someone that's lackadaisical, wants to take the weekends off, isn't hungry, then you're going to have trouble getting deals in consistently. And so it's very important, first, I always say to hire this position last, because if you hire this position last, you're going to have time to really build processes and systems around this position so that you can go find the person that's going to be fit for this role. Because a really good acquisition manager can make you anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a year, depending on how much marketing you're sending and depending on what markets you're going after. So this role is extremely important. Like I said, if not the most important role of this business, because it drives all the revenue, drives all the money. If you're not getting deals under contract, if you're not closing deals, you can't list them for sale and you can't make money. So this is the front end. Beyond that, there's Pat Live, and then SMS leads get pushed to the acquisition manager, and then they handle it from there. So essentially, the acquisition manager handles qualification, rapport building, negotiation, offer making, and the bench line for that, which I'll get into a little bit later with KPIs. So next is the admin and transaction manager. This person essentially handles all the contracts, make sure that all of our deals are being tracked well, make sure that pretty much all the numbers in the business are steady running and on pace to what our goals are for that year and that quarter and that month. So this person just manages pretty much all the functions of the business, make sure that everything's running smoothly. If there's an issue, they handle it. But mainly it's, okay, contract signed, send it to title, make sure that title has the contract, make sure that everything's good, get an estimated turnaround time for the title report, all those things. That's what that person does. If a contract needs to be signed, they can also follow up on that. They can also resend the contract. They can also make sure that we're getting in the contracts that we're needing to get in. So really just a lot of KPI management for this person as well, and KPI input as well. I pay this person $500 a week. And if I didn't mention that, I pay my acquisition manager 10% commission per deal. And then next is the dispo manager. So I pay them $500 a week and they get a time-based bonus based upon how quickly a property sold on the market, which really incentivizes them, because one thing that I teach is to make sure that we're aggressively pricing our properties. If we're aggressively pricing our properties and there's an inherent amount of demand in these markets, they're going to sell fast every single time. And they're going to sell fast in relation to what all the other properties sold for, right? So if the average property on this market is selling in 120 days, I want to be at least half that. I want to be within 60 days or less. So I have to price aggressively. And then I also have to make sure that my marketing is good. So heavy focus with this dispo manager on really good marketing, really good listing descriptions, really good pricing. And then also the dispo manager's job is to make sure that our broker Rolodex is continuously growing with qualified brokers. We're still mainly using brokers to list properties. We did do a few self-lists this year, and I liked self-listing, so I'll probably do a little bit more of that within the next year. But I don't think that there's anything better than having a broker that's boots on the ground, handling leads, can go to the property with the leads. That's I haven't really found anything better than that, and I wouldn't say self-listing is better than that either. The only thing that self-listing does really is allows us to pay less when we sell the property. But to me, when you have a really, really good broker, it's more than worth it. So the Dispos manager's job is really to find those A player brokers consistently and make sure that we keep a Rolodex. I have, I don't know, probably like 100 or so brokers in my Rolodex now. And these are good brokers, not just like agents and no, like really good brokers. In a bunch of different markets. It's important to continuously connect with brokers because I want to have a pulse on every single market that I'm in. I want to understand it like the back of my hand. And the dispo manager and the acquisition manager, you know what? My entire team works very closely together, but the dispo manager and the acquisition manager do meet together and discuss, because if there's something new that's going on in the market, the acquisition manager needs to know it so that they can be best equipped to have that conversation with the seller over the phone. Right. And so in every market that we're in, we just keep a very, very deep pulse on every market so that when the acquisition manager is having the conversations, they know exactly what's going on. They may even understand some of the jargon in these markets, right? Because we have such a pulse. Very heavy focus on evaluating the average, highest, and best use for the average of properties in whatever market that we're in. So with a few people, we're getting very granular and getting very detailed so that we understand how to really buy and sell properties faster. So I'm going to go over my KPIs. I know that there were questions about my KPIs. So this is what we track. Let me zoom out of this a little bit. So we track conversations, total conversations month over month, SMS conversations, mail sent, text sent, cost per conversation, contract sent, contract signed. We track if deals are falling through at title. We track why they're falling through at title, and then we try and figure out an average reason why. So are these falling through because they're landlocked? Are they falling through because, like, just what are the reasons? Conservation easement? Is the seller backing out? Did the title company say, there was some kind of issue? Like, why? What were the issues? So those are things that we track. I'm also tracking cost per deal closed. I'm tracking average cost per deal. I'm tracking average price of sale, and then I'm tracking average profit per deal. Those are the key performance indicators that I track in my business. The biggest thing for me in relation to how much cash we're making quarter over quarter is the conversations. So how many conversations is the acquisition manager having every month? And it needs to be at least 100. If it's below 100, then we have an issue. For you to be at $1 million a year, you need to be having at least 200 conversations every single month. So if you're having anywhere from 6 to 7 conversations every single day, that's going to lead you to getting to $1 million a year if you're aimed in the right markets and your profit targets are $25,000 or more. And conversation just means how many people you're talking to. It doesn't mean how many people are not interested. It doesn't mean how many people are interested. It just means those are the amount of conversations that you need to be having. This entices the acquisition manager to take action. And this will also entice you, whoever's watching this, to take action as well. Because if you understand that, okay, well, it's math. If I just talk to this many people every single day, then how much marketing do I need to send out to talk to this many people every day? You just kind of go backwards from there. And then you take massive action. Because then you're not going to be thinking about, okay, well, how many leads did I have? Or you're not going to be thinking about that. It's just, how many conversations do I need to have to get to my goal? And then what you'll find is, that's the magic number that I've seen from doing this over the last few years, is it needs to be at least 100 conversations to get to $500,000 net. At least that's like the bare minimum. So when you put a heavy focus and you take care of your inputs, the outputs will always follow and they'll always treat you well. So on the front end of my business, we put a heavy, heavy focus on the presentation of marketing. So what do our mailers look like? We split test a lot. I've sent closing in on 1 million mailers now. And we put a very, very heavy focus on, like I said, what does the marketing look like? What is the verbiage? Who are we speaking to specifically? And depending on the asset type that we're going after, and in this business, we're going after two asset types. I'm not really looking for any subdivides or anything like that. If I do get minor subdivides, then they get pushed somewhere else. But this is essentially how, fuck, man. So on the front of the business, there's a heavy focus on the presentation of marketing. We put emphasis on that, how we're marketing, who we're marketing to, what kind of property types are we going after, property type, and the average seller for that property type. We will also split test the marketing from that. So let's say that I have a deal that I want to buy for $200,000, sell for $400,000. I'm not going to market to that seller profile the same way I'd market to a deal that I'm buying for 30 and selling for 60. The marketing is a little bit different. The verbiage is a little bit different. The presentation overall is just different. What matters very much is your Pat Live and how you're texting a seller. First, I'm going to start with Pat Live. The first touch point that a seller has, well, really the first touch point a seller has is your website. So your website needs to be, crispy clean. It needs to be extremely professional, extremely concise. There should be nothing, absolutely nothing that makes you look like, you might be a scam. You need to look like a official company. You have to. Otherwise, the sellers are probably not going to call you because they have 10 to 15 other texts or letters inquiring about the exact same properties. So you need to stand out, and that's really what we focus on, standing out above the rest, looking better than all the other companies. You have to do that. Now, the second touch point for a seller is calling that number that's on the letter if it's a mailer, right? So they call the number. Once they call the number, what does the first touch point sound like? Who's on the other end of the line? So with Pat Live, over the last couple of years, I've been very focused on, listening to the calls and listening to how they answer the phone. So if they answer the phone like, hello, who is this? To be honest with you, sometimes Pat Live has answered the phone like that. And so I'll have to go tell management at Pat Live, like, look, this is the expectation, and then dial it in more and more and more. So now there's like a couple people that answer the phone on my Pat Live because I've dialed it in. And I've also made sure that there are some people that are just not on my account because I want to make sure that every single time a call is answered, it's the same process. It's a positive touch point. Whether it's a negative response from a seller or not, it doesn't matter. And there have been times where and again, don't get me wrong, this can be difficult. If you're on the phone all day, answering the phone, and then people are calling you and cursing you out, I can understand how that's difficult, but you have to treat it the same way as if it was an actual lead. Because there have been times where the receptionist answered the phone and they were very positive and very receptive. And the seller called, cursed them out, and then they called back and apologized. And then beyond that, they called back and apologized and gave their information for the property so that we can actually talk to them. So that's very important. I have my acquisition manager qualify, build trust and rapport, and make offers. So again, that's why the right people for the right position are so important, because I have seen people's back end before and they'll have like lead manager, lead qualification manager, acquisition manager. Like it's just too much. And I never wanted to run a business where I have like 100 employees for no reason. You can make $500,000 to $1 million a year with an extremely lean team, specific dialed in marketing, and just being consistent. You can, but you have to have the right people in the right positions. So again, acquisition manager qualifies leads, they build trust and rapport, and they make offers. They do that every day. So building the trust and rapport is very important. And that's probably going to be a separate video, and I actually do have videos like that on how you guys build trust and rapport and sell sellers on yourself. But the main thing really is 80% them, 20% you, making sure that they're talking a lot more than you and that they're telling you the story of the property so that you can be best equipped to make an offer and kind of identify their pain points as you talk to them. Really trying to figure out what is the pain so that I can help you, and can I help you? Can I give you $50K in the next 2 weeks versus $100K in 6 months potentially, because you don't know how to market a property? So you have to be able to understand how to do that with these sellers. And a good acquisition manager can really do all these things. They can take it from qualification to building trust and rapport to making offers and to negotiating and to making those crunch time counters, literally all of it. That's what my acquisition manager does. So that's the front end of the business. Now, on the back end of the business, heavy focus on KPI tracking, quarter over quarter, month over month, and week over week. That's how dialed in we are on a KPI tracking. Now, the actual, sheet that I have is month over month and quarter over quarter, but we do track our KPIs week over week in Slack as well. We keep a very close eye on leads. If you're sending out a lot of marketing, what can happen is, again, if you don't have A players, then you're going to have low-hanging fruit. And wait, hold on. If you don't have A players, then the A players are just going to focus on the low-hanging fruit. And so you have to keep a close eye on leads. So that's really what the acquisition manager and my general admin does. They keep a very close eye on leads and make sure that nothing is just kind of floating. If we're following up with the lead for a certain amount of times and they haven't responded, there's a place they get moved to. If a seller isn't interested, there's a place they get moved to. If a seller is interested, there's a place they get moved to. The leads just need to be on a consistent conveyor belt. If they're not on the conveyor belt consistently, then it's going to be hard for you to close deals, because there will be times where you're sending out a lot of marketing and you could have a lead in your CRM that didn't get the attention that it needed, which is why, again, I make sure to say we need to have this many conversations every single month. Because if we have this many conversations, there's no possible way that any of these leads could be floating in the CRM. There's no possible way. Making sure that you're with a good title company that is going to do right by you, because there are some title companies out there that know what we're doing and are starting to understand the land flipping model, and they're not good. They'll slow down on your deal. They won't do it as fast. They'll process slowly. And I've seen this happen. It's crazy. Once they figure out that we're making money, they have a completely different mentality towards you. So you following up with title and being professional, being nice to them, taking care of them too. Every year, title companies that I work with, I send them a basket full of goodies every single year. I've also paid for lunch for title companies before as well. So I take care of the title companies that we consistently do deals with as well. And I found that in the markets that I really like to work in with those title companies, they always take care of me and I never have any problem. I actually get title back on deals and I get them processed a lot faster with the title companies that I take care of. And I aim to take care of every title company that I work with, just like I aim to take care of every person that I work with, right? Everyone that works with me, I aim to take really good care of them, because when you do that, when you take really good care of people and you're not trying to be an authoritarian and it's not like I'm your boss and this is not, then people are going to respect you a lot more. They're going to trust your vision a lot more, and they're going to trust you a lot more. If they don't trust you, they're not going to trust your vision. They're not going to believe in you. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of people that are just with you for the money, right? And that's it. There's no culture. There's nothing there. So when shit gets hard, what's going to happen? Because there's no culture, your business is going to go belly up, which is why it's important to take care of your people. You have to keep your integrity, be nice to these people, and just genuinely just be a good person. That's literally it. That's what I found in business in general, is when you are a good person and you lead by example, you have a vision, you're strong, you're driven, you're disciplined, then what happens is everyone around you feels that and they buy into what your vision is, what you're building, and who you are. That's it. Take care of people. People will take care of you. Now, we make sure that we keep the seller in the loop throughout the entire process. You have to make sure that, once you get a contract signed with the seller, what can happen is, even if we built out the trust, the rapport, everything like that, and they trust my acquisition manager, they can still feel like, oh my God, am I going to get scammed? Is my property going to get stolen from me? And these are genuine concerns that these sellers have, because you have to think, they have never seen you before. They don't know what you look like. All they've done is talk to you on the phone. All they've done is seen a website. They don't know. So standard procedure for us is, as soon as we get a contract signed, It's kind of like an onboarding process in that we say, perfect, we're going to send this to title. You should hear from the title company within 24 to 48 hours. And then we have our transaction coordinator let title know to contact the seller and that their contact information is all there. So they contact them. And then once the title company calls, there's some more assurance with the seller. And usually we don't hear anything after that, but it depends on the profile. And because we've dialed in on profiles, we know what seller is going to act what way. So sometimes there are times where we coddle a seller a little bit more to the closing table, and there are other times where we don't have to do that. So it just depends on the seller profile, and that's why you have to really understand seller profiles and what they are and how to serve each and every one of those different personality types. So the last thing too is just coordinating with brokers. Once we get to the point where we've gotten title back on a property, everything looks good, everything looks clean, we've already started coordinating with brokers. We've already kind of let them know that this property is going to be coming, but now we're coordinating, the listing, the photos, the descriptions, everything like that. That's what we're coordinating and making sure that as soon as we close on the property, we list within 24 hours. That's a very key metric for me. I want to be listing pretty much as soon as I close and the deed has been recorded. And so we make sure that our deeds are recorded. And there are some counties and areas where the deed's going to take a little bit longer to record, but we'll still list the property. You need to be as fast as possible with this, as fast as possible. So as soon as the property closes, you want to list. It closes, we list. Now that's a little bit different when we're doing double closes. I still do double closes, and those work very well for us. But the standard model of buying and reselling, that's how you do it. Now, our company motto is extreme accountability and discipline equal freedom. That's something that I preach, and that's something that my team members have absolutely bought into. And what that means is that, I'm going to provide everything that we need to be successful. The marketing, the processes, every single thing. You have to be accountable for your job in your position. You have to be extremely accountable. Don't blame this person or that person. Internalize. What could I have done? And as a leader, that's something that I also have to do. If something went wrong, I have to take extreme accountability, and I have to have discipline. If you want to make $500,000 to $1 million a year or more, you need to understand that that's not a normal income. It's not. So in order to have that, you have to be extremely accountable and you have to have extreme discipline. And that will always equal freedom. Always. There's no weekends. There's no holidays. There's none of that. And am I going to say that that my employees worked on holidays? No. But a lot of them wanted to. We still sent text out on Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's. So understanding that, like, when you have the right people and you have your tribe and your crew, oh my God, it's like the best thing in the world, because they're in line with the same vision and values as you, because they want to do the best they can for their families as well. And so, yeah, extreme accountability and discipline equal freedom. Culture has been a very key part of this business as well, and just making sure that everyone is working smoothly together. And it's a collaborative environment, and it's something that I enjoy. We meet twice a week and we send a lot of looms. I pretty much live by loom. Our processes are so dialed to the point now where it's like some of our meetings are like 15 minutes. So we don't meet for like hours and hours on end. And that's essentially it. That's really my business structure for this business. I have a completely different structure for my funding business. And I'm building out processes and systems to specifically go after larger subdivides this year as well. Now, all the deliverables and the details and specific processes in all of these are within the Landverse training programs. So if you're interested in implementing this system into your business, book a call with me below and we'll help you out. This has been Femi with Landverse, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
So you're a land investor that's trying to scale past $50,000 a month and you don't know where to start. You feel lost, you feel confused. Well, here's exactly what I did to scale my business past that level and into the multi-7-figure level, into doing multiple 6-figure deals, and also helping many of my clients do the exact same thing. You see, the first thing you have to understand is that it's about the analysis of your data. You see, most people don't do any post-mortem on any of their deals. They don't go back and see what went right on this deal, what went wrong on this deal. Most people don't do that. Every single deal that I've ever had, every deal, no matter what, whether it was a failure or a success, you always go back and do a full analysis on why that deal succeeded or why that deal failed. And as long as you do that, then you have continuous data to go back and tell yourself, okay, well, this person was this age, they were this demographic, and they were in this area, and this was their reason for selling. Well, when you know that, and you can create these kinds of profiles on people, which is what we call seller profiles. So when you just do that alone, you're able to build consistency in your business. And this is the thing. I see people going through a lot of cash crunches in the land business where they'll make a bunch of money in 1 month and then 3 months passes and you don't make any other money. Well, you have to be able to put systems in place so that every single month you're profitable and you're cash flowing. And as long as you're doing that, you're winning. So what exactly does this look like? You need to be able to build systems around each part of the business: market selection, marketing, acquisitions, and dispositions. Now, if you do this consistently, if you do this in every single point of your business, then you're gonna have consistent cash flow. So what does this mean for market selection? When you pick any market, you need to have a specific desired outcome from that market. You see, most people just pick markets because, oh, it's a hot zone here, it's a hot zone there, this is hot, this is hot, this is cold, oh, the sold for sale is this. First of all, as long as you follow the rules, specific rules of making sure that demand is 50 to 100% more than supply, just that basic rule. If you follow that rule and make sure that properties in that area are also selling for $100,000 or more, you will be in a good position to have properties bought and sold on a consistent basis. So just follow those 2 rules alone. And when it comes to market selection, you need to be able to set goals for what you want out of that market. So if it's, I want to make $100,000, I want to make 250 grand, I want to make $50,000 from this market, you need to be able to set that goal so that you can go in and dice and slice the market to a point where you can see the deals. Every time I go on with a market selection call with any client, that's what I do. Okay, so what's your goal for this? So if your goal is to make $300,000 in this market, you can't be offering $20,000 and selling properties for $50,000. You can't be offering 60 grand and selling for 120 grand. So if the average exit price of properties is 120, $200,000, $50,000. If it's not in the range where you can make $250,000 or more, you shouldn't be aiming at those kinds of markets. You see, most people just randomize the land investing game when it's not a randomized game. All this stuff is extremely calculated if you just set goals in your mind and you set frameworks around what you're doing. You see, it actually becomes really simple. The same thing with marketing. What is your goal in the next 6 to 8 months with your marketing? How much money do you want to make? If you say, hey, I want to be able to make 300, 400, 500, I want to be able to make $1 million. Well then, if you're just sending out 1,000 mailers here and there and just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best, then you're not going to get that result. So you need to have a staggered plan of marketing. Every client that comes into Landverse, we have them on a staggered plan of marketing. So if they are a more advanced business, I work with businesses that are doing multiple 6 figures in profit per year. I also work with businesses that will do 7 figures this year. And one thing that I've realized with all of these businesses is we set plans for marketing. So if we're gonna be at point A right now, by next quarter, we're gonna be at this point. And this is how we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there by strategizing. We're gonna get there by talking on the phone. We're gonna get there by making sure we're consistently talking to our leads. And so here's the thing. A lot of people are running their businesses like they are just hustles. And like, hopefully I win the lottery today. Hopefully. It's a lot of hope instead of knowing exactly where you're going. And this is why I have clients at Landverse who are making multiple 6 figures in profit on just one deal, because they know exactly where they're going, because we actually sat down, drew out a plan for them to get to where they wanted to go. We know our goals. So when you know your goals, it's really easy to get to the goal. When you're just kind of hustling for this and that, and then you're switching between infill lots and switching between that and this and that and all these different things, instead of just focusing on one strategy, dialing in on that strategy and making sure you hit that point as quickly as possible, and auditing things along the way. So when it comes to acquisitions, do you even record your calls? 99.9% of the people that we take strategy calls with at Landverse do not record their calls. This is a staggering statistic. How do you expect to run a multiple 6, multiple 7-figure business if you can't even analyze your conversations? You realize that every single part of this business is about analyzation, from market selection all the way to dispositions. And as you're able to improve that process, you're able to get deals done faster and at a more profitable rate. The other thing with acquisitions as well is you should spend every single week, every Sunday, you should spend going over your calls. This is what I used to do, and I actually still do this with my team now. I still review calls. I go in and look at tonality. I listen to how they're negotiating. I listen to if you were just being kind of a pushover and not making that offer. Oh, okay, well, I can only do 50,000. Okay, well, no worries, I don't think it'll work. Instead of saying, okay, really, well, what I see in this area is anywhere from 30 to 35. That's more what I can do. I'm just gonna be realistic. Like cash in your pocket today, does $30,000 to $35,000 work for you? Most of the time, if you push back on sellers, they will oblige. I literally had a call with another client the other day who was telling me this same exact thing. He had a seller at $100,000. He was gonna double close his deal and sell it for $140,000. He ends up negotiating after I said, man, just go negotiate that deal. You're gonna need it at like 30 to 35. That's what I told him. You'll need it at 30 to 35. He went back, he negotiated it, he got it at $30,000. We got on a call the other day and he's like, honestly, I didn't think that was gonna happen, but you told me to do it and it happened. I used the script and it happened. This is how you build a business. You don't build a business by being a pushover. You don't build a business by just taking no for an answer. You build a business by forcing your way through. You build a business by analyzation. As long as you can analyze every part of your business, this is what happens. You get amazing results. The other thing too is you expect to get deals done and you've only talked to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people. You have to be able to talk to more people. The more people you talk to, the more conversations you have, the more situations for profitability that you create. And if you don't do this, then you'll never be at the point where you can have a team that you can delegate this off to. You need to be able to have a level of mastery at all these pillars so that you can then go off and delegate to A players who are going to make sure that your business is cash flowing no matter where you are, what you're doing, how you're doing. It doesn't matter, the business cash flows because you put systems in place. And this is what I've been able to build, which has given me a life that I would have never even imagined. Now, when it comes to selling properties, it's actually funny because right before I started filming this video, I saw a property that I bought a few years ago for $250,000 that's been on the market now for a year for about $540,000. So I bought this property, I've talked about it on the channel before. I bought this property for $250,000, I sold it for $600,000. It's now listed on the market after a year for less than what I bought it for. Now, when I look at the marketing absolutely sucks. It's terrible, it's horrible. I look at this marketing, I'm just like, wow, this is exactly why we're able to be in this position. This is exactly why I'm able to make so much money flipping land. It's why our clients are doing the exact same thing, because we know how to market our properties. So from the beginning, from market selection and marketing, we know how to market to sellers to actually get them to call, close them at 30 to 50% of the market value. But then on the other end, we know how to sell our properties on the market to the highest and likely best buyer profiles. Now, imagine this. Somebody came in to our buyer funnel. They offered $600,000. We closed. Now this exact same property with this exact same buyer is on the market for way less and has been on the market for way longer than what we had it listed for. This is the key of marketing. This is why I always say, paint a picture for your highest likely buyer profile. If you're not doing that, then you have properties sitting forever. And this is why we're able to be in the market and make so much money. Now, when you master all these things, then you're able to delegate those off to key players, and we have systems in place at Landverse in order for you to do that. This is a cash flow business like no other. This is a business that I've been able to personally use to fuel many different investments, grow my investment portfolio, take care of my family, travel. It's literally done all that. I've looked at so many other business models and I keep coming back to land investing for a reason. I keep educating you guys about land investing for a reason, because this truly has changed my life and has changed many of my other clients' lives. And if you want to be a person that's able to build great wealth from this business model and build it into a cash flowing business model for yourself so that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, have the business of your dreams, have the investment portfolio of your dreams, book a strategy call below and I'd be happy to help you.